AIVANHOV. Well, my dear friends, I'm very happy, as always, to see you again. First of all, I send you all my blessings, all my love. So today, I did not ask any questions, for in fact, today, all the questions you may ask about yourself, about the other, about society, about some event or some structure or thought, related to the past, related to the future and related to some form of dissonance with the present, can only take you away from the truth that you are. In other words, there is no point in talking today about astronomical signs. In previous months, we had been talking about comets. There are others that will come, even if this comet in May did not have the visibility we expected, but the stock of comets is really important. As far as society is concerned, of course, we are not going to talk about your viruses, the waves emitted by the appliances, or even about what is happening to a certain form of programming of society and of humanity as a whole because, as you know, everything is written down. No, what will interest us much more today is the ultimate mechanisms, I would say, of consciousness, which allow you today, in the circumstances of your life and the circumstances of this world, in the space of a snap of your fingers, to live agape and no longer be disturbed, no longer be bothered, no longer be unbalanced by the slightest question concerning you, concerning tomorrow or even concerning this world and this society. More than ever today, from the moment you stop, in every sense of the word, looking outside, and when I say outside, I mean not only what is happening on the stage of Gipnell's theatre, but also in you, in your relationships, with your thoughts, with your brothers and sisters, with husbands, wives, children. The important thing is to find, that zero time, the present instant, the present moment, call it what you want, agape, if you want. But to do so, you must stop seeing in every sense of the word what is going on outside, in order to direct your attention, your intention, your ethics and your integrity towards the truth that you are. And remember, there can be no research. It is in fact, today, a total surrender that the intelligence of the light is asking of you in relation to your claims, and I call this claim, but it can be a sexual desire, a financial desire, a desire for divorce, or anything else. We have insisted for years on conscious co-creation, on the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine, the primordial androgynous, conscious co-creation. Today, more than ever, the circumstances of your individual life, but also of your family, your neighborhood, your region, your country, your continent, will unfold a number of events that will be more and more striking in every sense of the word, not to make you suffer, not to make you question, but to give you back your peace and your silence, which are what you are when you're agape. I believe that Biden used the expression of divine indifference. This divine indifference, from the point of view of the ego, of course, or from the point of view of the person or the soul, is detestable, but from the point of view of the truth is exactly the result of living the truth and agape. You can only be in total indifference in what has to go through your body, your life, your family, your neighborhood, I said it, and the entire humanity. There is only one key, silence and inner peace, that really allows you, and it is up to you, once again, to verify this, and instantaneously, to go through absolutely everything that clutters and resists in the light of truth. You can see what is happening at the level of society, wherever you turn your eyes, be it at the social level, at the medical level, at the political level, and I would say at the emotional level, the global level of humanity, that everything is, in fact, moving towards a chaos that we have been telling you about for a long time, which has been called the shock of humanity. I had said 2 months ago, I think 2.5 months ago, that, in fact, the film was written, that you could simply advance, stop or move back the tape of the video film on a Super 8 screen, but you can't change the content of the tape. Today, more than ever before, whatever your health, whatever your resentment, whatever your joy, whatever your suffering, whatever your sorrow, and I know that ever and many of you have lived, 2, 3, 4 months ago, from the lights on the hidden side of this world maintained by the puppets, you have seen the truth, whatever its horrors, the truth of this world. But today, you do not even need to see any truth of this world anymore, because all this is a dream, and the only way you can wake up from this nightmare is to stop dreaming. The consciousness, you cannot, even with vibration, vibrational rises, and even if you have the 3 active crowns, if you feel the wave of life, the wave of the ether, the song of the soul, the song of the spirit, even if you have the Entakarana and the sacred lemnisate that are active, if you do not want to turn away from the illusion of this dream, as of all creation, you are not totally free. That is to say, what is proposed to you by the intelligence of the light, even if initially, for many of you, could be called a nightmare or despair, but this nightmare and this despair inevitably leads, for all the souls of the earth and instantly, to truth, to joy, from the instant that you really accept to do the silence. It is not a question of meditation, it is not a question of going up in vibration. Again, beyond all that, of course, that is useful to be healthy and whatever you want within the dream, it is necessary, but the only thing necessary to discover the truth, if you do not live it yet, is indeed what had been used 3 years ago, 4 years ago, by Osho among others, on laziness and on remaining quiet. To remain quiet does not mean to sit and do nothing, although you could do so. Some have hobbies, some work, some have children, some have things to do, things to accomplish, but I am talking about your posture in your head and in your affects, in your emotions. This means that the less you will be tempted to react or to do, in relation to what you feel, to what you see, to what you are feeling, the more you will be able to live the unspeakable beauty of the truth of love, that is to say of agape. But as long as you are driven by a need for justification, and I specify, whether in relation to yourselves, in relation to your husband or your wife, or your companion, in relation to children, in relation to society, in relation to legality, in relation to everything that makes up the structure of society, you must let it be what it is, which, I remind you, has been written. And there, instantly, as soon as you stop claiming anything, it was explained at length by Eber, the principle of acceptance and welcome. Accepting the unacceptable is not putting one's head in the hole, it is opening one's heart wide to absorb, as you did for many of you a few years ago, with the reabsorption of essences, the reabsorption of demons, the reabsorption of creation. It now remains for you to let be absorbed what may remain, not of habits, but of personal stories, of personal memories, simply of your astrological sign. For example, today according to which sign and which ascendant you are governed by forces, by aspects that you can enlighten, of course, but which are part of your ephemeral constituents, of course. You know, already 3 months ago we talked about viruses as astral particles for the elimination of emotions. It is the same on the theater stage of your intimacy for each one of you, and it is a process that there is universal, that is to say that it affects the whole of humanity. A long time ago, we explained that the radiation of the light, the ultraviolet radiation, the solar radiation, the radiation of the Holy Spirit, or if you prefer, the primary radiation of Sirius, and the radiation emitted by any living body on this planet, but also by your technologies, whatever they may be, are not there to be opposed. To oppose you ought to fight, but to be there too, traversed. So there, it is no longer time to reveal the various truths that have been asserted to you by your media everywhere, as well as all the lies that you have seen around you, but also within you. It is no longer time to forgive or to get up in vibration about it. It is time to be and to verify for yourselves this divine indifference, which will bring you closer and install you between the 4 pillars of the heart, that is to say the intention, the attention, the ethics, the integrity. The voice of childhood will instantly put you in this fire of love, in this igneous fire, this fire of the Holy Spirit, that we had explained many years ago. So there is no question of going back to the structures of the stars, of the gates, even if I mentioned the primordial androgynous, the sacred lemnisate and all that. Now you know very well that you don't care about any of that. There's only one posture and one state that sets you free. It is to be in silence and peace, and also, even if you live in nature, of course it is much more pleasant than living in buildings, isn't it, especially at this time, but all this was foretold by the prophecies. You're exactly in your very good place, and it is in your place, in your life, with your wallet empty or full, in solitude or in great love, that it is up to you to make this final point, this final acquiescence. It is no longer just the yes as Eber used to say, but it is the total acceptance that everything you have lived, all your resentments, all your joys, all your affections, all your ultimate habits, the habit of being in a form, of being a person, the only way is to discover that there is no one. And that everything you have used to express creation, the form, the consciousness, the energy, the four elements and the ether, all belong to the same dream, and all that dream can only end, as we have said, on earth by a general nightmare. The nightmare is not made to frighten you, it is made to make you overcome your last illusions. What last illusions? Those of believing that you have a form, those of believing that you are called by such and such a name, of being born on such and such a day, of being of such and such an age, of participating in your emotional life, in your social or societal life, or in your professional life, and of realizing, in concrete terms, that all of this is nothing but wind, that has distracted you from who you are. This has been repeated by all the great mystics in the East, in the West and elsewhere. But today it is universal, it is all humanity that must realize that all this, and what you call 5G, the New World Order, your body, your love, your child, are part of your dream, and that all this has no substance, and, above all, no permanence. And I say it one last time, you can live it instantly. You have had the peoples of nature, you have had, for some of you, the encounter with mother geneticists, with cetaceans, the first and last songs of creation, you have had countless experiences, or perhaps you have not had many. But it doesn't matter. Today, no past experience, no present or projected experience can serve as an alibi or a safe haven. The only safe conduct is your heart, the truth of agape, pushing to the extreme, I would say, the words of Christ. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But of course, in the same way he will find his eternity again. But having the feeling of losing one's life can be very painful, while the feeling of emerging from a dream or a nightmare puts you in agape. It's up to you. For years I have been telling you, fear or love. Afterwards, Buddha said, love or suffering. I say to you, love, oh, love. You have no other choice, you have nothing to hope for, you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to believe, you have nothing to prepare. According to the availability of your life, take the time, not to do something, but to let be what is, and what is, it is not only the present moment, it is you, above all. To discover the truth is to let the nightmare go, is to let the suffering and the joys go away. It is to let go of the very idea of being a person. Save it for your work, if you have one, if you work, but for what you are, you need neither work, nor sex, nor the other, nor Mary, nor society, nor worlds. And everything is done by the plowing of the intelligence of the light, which comes to strike you in all possible ways, at the level of the body, at the level of the thoughts, at the very level of what is happening in your life, but also in the country where you are, or the region where you are, or in the very neighborhood where you are, and all this is only there to get you out of the nightmare. Yes, it's a nightmare to think you're somebody. Yes, it is a nightmare to think you have to improve something that is good for the person, it is good for the health, it is good for the vibration, it is good for the spiritual illusion, but today, it takes you away from the truth. Have confidence in the articulation of the intelligence of light, no longer as raw light, but as pure intelligence, which will supplement and suppress your personal intelligence. You no longer need it. The more you listen to what is, even if you do not yet know it, the more what is can only emerge. The premise is, and there are many of you, more and more of you are living it on earth, are moments as if you were disconnected, not necessarily tired, or as you had with the vibratory upswings, but for a moment you perceive, whether you're resting, washing the floor, or studying courses of what you want, there is like a silence and a quality of peace, of zero time, which emerges within your nightmare, your pseudo-individuality, and which, little by little, actually makes you realize that nothing in this world, neither love, nor children, nor tomorrow, nor anything else, can come close. Afterwards, of course, it is not always stable, it fluctuates, but these moments of peace, like a very vast silence, which touches you at certain moments, whether it is a minute, whether it is several hours, you will discover, if it has not already been done, that there is the only truth, and that all this agitation, all these stories of this world, all the scenario that the puppets are trying to set up, of course, has been written. But you have to drink the cup to the dregs. So evidently, as I said last month, my last intervention, a multitude of events are happening, in your life, in your region, everywhere, in nature, but also in society, in the cosmos, in heaven and earth. There will not be a minute respite outside. The only respite will be in that peace, that special silence, which will truly rejoice you and which will put an end, really, to this illusion. But not only of the third dimension, but also of all creation, which was only a dream. You're anterior to creation, and you are that state of peace and silence, where nothing touches anything anymore, and which occurs in your ordinary moments, with more or less importance, as I have said, in duration, in intensity, but which will, as the days go by, from tomorrow onwards, become disproportionately amplified. At some point, and I would say again in these very short times, each at your own pace, but in space, I am talking about days, even weeks, you will all be able to make the difference, because you will have lived through it, between what true peace and silence is and what the illusions of consciousness are, and all this nonsense of dreaming about a new root race or whatever, which was important to present to you as preparatory structures, to get where you are today, that is to say, at the gates of chaos, but also at the gates of ultimate truth. You have always been there, the universe has appeared, the universe will disappear, the multiverse in the same way, but you will always be there. And so there will be a species, if it has not already done so, but I speak especially for those who are discovering today these particular states of consciousness, which I no longer even want to call supra-consciousness or supra-mind. You will discover these moments, and you will taste these moments of peace and silence, with increasing ease. But also, with the evidence that this is your natural state and does not depend on your character, which does not depend on your body, your husband, your wife and, as I said, your wallet, but only on the acceptance, no longer of this world and its horrors, but on the acceptance of the truth. Don't look for the truth, don't ask yourself such questions, you are the truth. So of course, I believe that Egba, already for 2 years, had given you a number of gestures to do with your hands around your heart. He had also revealed the ultimate key to the impersonal, that is to say the pronunciation of your surname of birth and your first name, but all that today I would say is outdated. You really don't need anything, except to be nothing and observe the peace, the silence and agape that are there. Taste, as it unfolds, this ultimate truth that will never pass. And little by little, or more brutally for others, you will go from your ultimate habits of being in a form, of believing that you come from an education, or a wallet or an effect, to discover that none of this, really and concretely, will be able to affect you anymore. Moreover, I know that many of you were expecting, in May, as I said, something spectacular. There will, of course, be something spectacular. I told you that, as every year, there are always dates that are more predisposed, I would say, cyclically, for the emergence of certain collective events, I would say, at the level of creation as a whole. You're entering, again in these days, but also, I would say, until the end of this year, and no further, into something that is going to become more and more important. Chaos will grow, but peace will also grow in you, if you recognize it and if you accept it. Accept the truth and you will go through everything that happens and you will remain truthful, and you will discover that you have always been there, and that this character that serves you as a form, with its history, its astrological, astral, memorial influences, but also physiological, functional, is a ridiculous person without a name in relation to what you are. You do not, we have said it enough, you do not need visions, you do not need vibrations. These are temple merchants today, who want to make you believe that you have to go up in vibration, or see certain things, or meet such and such an archangel, or such and such a whale today. You need to be truthful, and, of course, you can be truthful with the same intensity in the most important drama of passion or grief, as you can be with the songs of the whale. It is exactly the same thing. It is about waking up, about getting out of the nightmare, not running away from it, but today, accept the truth. Do not ask yourself what this truth is. Absolute would say ENG. It is not a relative truth. It is common to all consciousness, from the atom, from the elementary particles, to the superuniverses. And it is the same force, and it is the same state, whatever the dimensional level, whatever the vibratory level. But today, be in a form of inner vigilance. Locate these moments, as I said, where you feel this peace and silence. Do not ask yourself questions. Perhaps you will be able to continue doing what you are doing, but you will no longer be absorbed in the task, or in the joy. For example, if you make love, but you will find that there is a peace and a silence, which has nothing to do with suffering, which has nothing to do with an orgasm, but it is something that you can only recognize as a gape. Besides, it's part of a gape. Ebba has explained to you extensively over the past year the relationship between agape, joy, silence, and all those things. Today, what you have to go through is the nightmare, but the nightmare is not true. You know it when you wake up. But when you don't wake up, you get caught up in the nightmare. Now in a nightmare there is only one key, the silence, and there is acceptance, but acceptance not only of the nightmare, but that you are the truth. Do not ask yourself the question of defining the truth. You are the way, the truth and the life. You're agape, you're I am one, but beyond any denomination, beyond any perception, it is up to you to observe these moments, whether they are fleeting or very intense. You will recognize yourself. And you will no longer be caught up, if I may say so, by the nightmare, or by the dream, whatever it may be. You will be available more and more, and the more the chaos will grow. When I say chaos, this time it is not only the chaos of society, it is not the chaos linked to the elements, but it is also that chaos of your character, of your last hopes or your last desires, of improvement or transformation. That was another era, that was the celestial wedding, that was the time when you had to push the final script. You see the final script in front of your eyes every day, wherever you look, and the show, in this last scene, is evidently going to go towards an extraordinary amplification of absolutely everything. And through this storm, through this chaos, you will be the motionless rock, and you will be in this joy. And you will only be able to see it, as you let go of the last pretensions, as I was saying, to anything with regard to this world, to your body, to your husband, to your child, which does not mean not taking care of them, does it? But if you do it with slackness, with indifference, you will be at peace. And you will also find that you're even more effective in living that peace, but also in living your own theater scene, whether it is joyful or nightmarish. You will be in the same inner smile, in that peace and silence that nothing can qualify, but that you can only recognize. It's like a gape. You can make a concept of it, you can make poetry of it, but if you don't live it, it's useless, even if you know the most perfect definition of it. For this peace and silence I am talking about, for this state of emptiness of zero time that emerges even more within the ephemeral, let the intelligence of the light, I remind you that it is you too, and refine the lighting of what remains to be illuminated. And do not regurgitate, be at peace. Don't look for peace. Before you put any reaction whatsoever, or emotion, for example, you'll learn that your husband or wife is leaving you, there is sadness there, of course, it is normal, or if a loved one dies, you will feel these usual emotions of grief. But if you manage to stay, even for 2 minutes, I am the truth, I am peace, there is no need to repeat it to make a mantra, but you instantly refocus on the heart of the heart. You do not even need to feel the crown anymore. Of course, you are many to feel the vibrations, you are many to have noticed that the sounds in the ears have amplified excessively, but we are not going to talk about all that, it is useless today, they are symptoms. So of course, we had, for those who were curious, explained all this for many years, but also in the basics, for example, of Ayurveda, or also of Chinese energetic medicine, but today we must go straight to the point. You are the goal. It is not to acquire this or that. It is not to separate yourself from this or that. It is to be totally immersed in this zero time and in this present instant, without asking for anything, without expecting anything, and you will discover that you are this immutable peace, that even if someone cut off your arm, you will feel nothing, like the yogis of India. But that doesn't make you a yogi. It is simply, as I said, a universal process, and even we, the elders and the whole intergalactic confederation of free worlds, you know we're there, closest to you, hiding less and less, but also the forces of the bad boys, because we are all going to be bathed in the event, and we are all going to wake up at some point that is taking place. So I can't tell you it's June, I can't tell you it's October, I can't tell you it's December, because you have to be in the instant. And you will notice that the more you let this peace, this silence and this agape be, the more your life will unfold, whatever its state, with ease. What was hard will become easy. The suffering you had, perhaps because you had a disease that hurt, will be bearable. Of course, it's not therapeutic. For this I send you to the doctor or to what you usually do. I'm really talking about the ultimate positioning of consciousness. What do you do with your consciousness? Let it disappear in favor of the freedom that you are, which is not subject to any form, to any conscience, to any world, to any spirituality, to any god, to any devil and to any master, because we have all, without any exception, been all that and that today, the law of grace, of the state of grace, of which we had already spoken many years ago, during the interventions of the Spirit of the Sun, or of the choir of angels, or of Ayoun, for example, today, find this peace and this silence. At first they may seem strange to you. For example, you're reacting to a situation that you know, that you hate, in whatever area, and observe, there is peace there and silence, in spite of the agitation, in spite of the emotions and in spite of the fear or the suffering, whatever it may be. If you see this, if you perceive this, do not ask for anything, let there be this peace and silence, and you will become fully agape in the days and weeks to come. And remember that when you're in this state, it is your presence, your love that are acting, it is not your words, it is not your speeches, it is your radiance that touches, of course, from one person to another, spreading through the lines of the intelligence of light, which we spoke of at the time about the elvish villages, for example, which will manifest themselves to you. If you need to go out into nature, if you need to meet the people of nature, if you need to meet other brothers and sisters, not to talk about this or that which is going to happen in the world, but to share much more than good news, but to share this state of agape, as you did at the time in the bars of perpetual love, but in a much more lucid, much more persistent way. And I would also say, finally, much more effective. At some point, the ones and the others, and this is universal, it is all of humanity, you will be so fed up with seeing the chaos, the elements, the society, the brothers and sisters around you, that you will know, instinctively, logically too, that the only solution is the peace that you are. And all the experiences, all the events, local, general, collective, in your life, in your family, that will touch you and that already touch you, have only this object, to make you discover that peace is much greater than the greatest suffering, than the greatest difficulty, because suffering and difficulties will always belong to form, always to history, but never to what you are. It is time today to discover this in its entirety. Of course, the circumstances of where you live, of your family, of your brothers and sisters, of your country, of the sky, of the climate too, will destabilize you, but it is thanks to this destabilization that you discover peace, and it is extremely fast, I insist very much on that. Whatever the intensity of agape, of this peace and silence, do not worry about the radiation of the heart or the black hole in the heart of the heart, even if you feel the crowns, even if you feel the wave of life, or if you feel the sound of the soul, the neda in the left ear that rises in frequency. Do not be alarmed, do not worry about it. Remain motionless internally and peace will come. And I tell you again, even if it is something that may seem extremely hard on the level of suffering, for you, whether it is your body, your emotions, your history, whether it is around you, in the social sphere, or whether it is collective, makes no difference. This peace is accessible to everyone. And when you see today the number of brothers and sisters who are literally liquidating their ancestral and collective memories, all that you call races, all that does not exist. But to come out of a race, you have to understand, for personal history, that there are no races, having passed, thereto, by a resolution that is not strictly speaking related to karma, but much more really to grace, who comes to wash your robes, sometimes in the blood, of the lamb or of another. But it is like this, really, that you no longer have nightmares, and it is like this that the divine indifference of peace, silence and agape is lived. This is what I had to say today. I will not talk about any question you could have asked me. I will not talk about any event that is happening, because the essential today, and from tomorrow, is really this inner positioning of the consciousness, of the person, this inner positioning of your own emotions, of your own sufferings, that will bring you to live this peace and this divine indifference. And there you would free. And you cannot, at any time, doubt it. Like agape, when you live it, you know it. Of course, as long as you don't live it, you can only quibble about what is this word, what is this state, what is this movement. There is no movement, agape is silence, there can be no movement, neither spiritual nor societal, there can only be recognition through agape, through peace and through this silence and indifference. You could be in the middle of an orchestra, dancing, and be in inner silence and peace be there. That is what I would say is what is to be found, but that you don't have to look for and that is there within you, so you have to find it within you and let it emerge more and more, if I may say so, within the nightmare or within the dream, within your relationships, within your activities, within your families and within the whole universe. This is what I had to tell you today. Of course, it will call, through your experiences from today, tomorrow and the beginning of July, probably my return around mid-July, and don't see any connection with the French national holiday. Of course, that has nothing to do with it, but I think that a certain number of elements will still have been gone through, a lot of things will still have been revealed, chaos will increase, and as never before, at all levels on this earth, and then, with that, of course, it's the holidays. So I say to you, good holiday, but above all, good holiday from your character. Good holiday from the ego. And I say to you, above all, agape. I will come back in a more detailed way on July 15th, unless, of course, something special should happen before then, but a priori, we let you go through these 3 weeks in divine indifference, or in anger. It is you who will see for yourselves what is the best positioning and the best solution, if I may say so. I also convey to you all my blessings, all my love, and I do not want to go on any longer, and I do not want to talk about anything other than this intimate mechanism that is taking place today. And so I say to you, see you very soon. Be well, and especially, good silence and good peace, and agape. See you soon. Through Jean-Luc Ayoun. Les Transformations, June 20, 2020. Transcription from French. Transcriptionsfr. Revised English Translation. LMF, DeepL Translator.